Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Graystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Graystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.
Well, welcome back to the podcast, guys. I hope you had a good week so far. If it's the first time you're listening, you're in the number one place for financial empowerment and wealth creation. The strategies that I've given you through the series of this podcast, starting from episode 1, I really genuinely hope and believe that they will leave you in a better place than you found them. So if you've never listened before, I highly recommend you go back to episode 1. But this week we're following on from last week. So look, if this is the first time you're listening, this might be a little bit heavy. We've really taken the time to warm up to trading and conversations about trading. And last week I was talking to my trading partner, Akil Stokes. But this week we're taking it a little step further and building on what we were speaking about last week. And I caught up with friends and kind of associates of mine, Dr. Steenberger, who's one of the world leading psychologists for traders, institutional traders. He works with institutional traders, seven-figure traders. Phenomenal guy. He's also an author of best-selling books on trading psychology. And I'm catching up with my good friend Mike Bellafiore as well, who runs a legendary Wall Street prop firm in New York, in Manhattan, called SMB Capital. And Mike's also a best-selling author of 2 books. And they both work together, these guys. And what we're going to be talking about today is trader approach, trader psychology, what they do wrong, what they don't do wrong. So you listening, if you're into trading, if you're thinking about getting into trading, really this is coming from this is really the horse's mouth, okay? A prop firm, the entire business model of a prop firm is to get traders, good traders, to trade the capital of the business to grow the business. Without profitable traders, there's no business. Without no business, there's no income for the business owner. So it is the business's sole purpose to find good traders and train good traders and retain good traders and build them. And that is it. And if they don't have any of that, then the business doesn't exist. So if there's anyone that knows how hard it is to start a business, try, and if there's anyone who knows how hard it is to start trading, try combining the two and meet Mike Bellafiore, okay? You'll understand why he uses people like, or engages with people like Dr. Steenberger to work closely with their traders, because they are phenomenal assets to the business. So I'm going to catch up with those guys. I caught up with them earlier in the week. We're going to be playing that interview right now. And I highly recommend you grab a pen and paper for this one and enjoy. All right. First of all, thanks for coming on, Dr. Steenberger and Mike Bellafiore.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great. I know this is going to be a really valuable discussion for the trading community. We got together today to discuss some very, very important topics that are sometimes, not very obvious. And some of the topics we're going to be discussing aren't really what comes to the front of your mind as a trader. Sometimes they can be underlying. They can be things that are really a thorn in your side, and they can really end up being, causing a death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing. So really, really valuable insights. We're going to be discussing some really valuable topics. So first of all, thank you guys for coming on. I know it's going to be insanely valuable. So the first thing I want to kind of touch on really is a trading edge. Okay, so one of the points that Mike brought up when we were talking and conversing before this podcast was the lack of a trading edge and how that's often mistaken for trading psychology issues. So what give us some kind of insights in what you mean by that, Mike.
So what's really interesting is when I talk to a lot of people outside the firm who learn that Dr. Brett Steenberger works with our traders. At first, they're amazed and delighted that we do that. And we're very fortunate to be able to work with him and have him work with our traders. But you would think, given his title, that he spends a lot of time sitting around fixing people's minds and brains and getting them not to be so quirky and strange. But that is, and I think that's a very reasonable thing to think.
Yeah.
That he is trained with a PhD in psychology, and that he would spend a lot of time helping you work on your personal, emotional, psychological issues that may be holding you back from achieving your success. And he does spend some time doing that, but a majority of the time he spends helping traders find their trading edge. And maybe that's because he's such a unique and high level coach and has a trading background that he's able to help traders get better at trading as well as their psychology. But one of the things that I learned from Dr. Steenberger is that you can be the calmest person on the street. You can be the most positive person on the street. You can be the most focused person on a desk. You can be the most objective person on the desk. You can be the person who processes information at a world-class level on our desk. But if you do not have trading edge, trading is going to be very frustrating for you. And it should be very frustrating for you. In fact, if it wasn't frustrating for you and you were really calm after losing and losing and losing and losing, there's probably something wrong with you. You probably really do need some help, and it may be Dr. Steenberger needs to refer you to somebody outside of the firm and his expertise. And so you hear newer traders often in emails to me and on Twitter and wherever else they post, thinking that the way for them to become successful is just to fix themselves, just to fix what they perceive as their emotional shortcomings. And oftentimes they should really focus on actually trading setups that work in real time, actually trading setups that will work for them in their trading career. Yeah. And if they do, they won't be as frustrated. And I think I got that right, Dr. Steenberger.
I think you got that very right, Mike. Yeah. This is nice talking together with Jason. We can do it differently than the U.S. presidential debate, because if we were doing it like the debate, then I would have to talk all over you and you'd have to talk all over me. We would go over our time limits. And so anyway, well, this will be a little more constructive, right, Jason? But seriously, Mike, you're absolutely right. The issue is a kind of chicken and egg one. Traders become frustrated because they're trying to make money and they really haven't properly studied markets and what creates opportunity in markets. So they don't have an edge and they're risking their money. And guess what? That makes them frustrated. On the other hand, there are frustrations that can lead to bad trading. So sometimes the trading psychology issue, such as the frustration, is the result of the problem, not having an edge, and also be the cause of further problems. And that's why in the work we do with the traders at SMB, what comes first? It's the education, the training. That's what comes first. You have to learn the skills. Then, once you learn the skills, the psychology helps you implement those skills as best as possible. So that's how we work together. But no trading psychology can substitute for skills.
No. So, I
And
mean,
Shark is a really good, and let me work on talking over everybody. Shark is a really good example. I apologize. Shark is a really good example. So Shark is our all around, I think it's fair to say, our all around best trader.
right.
Super successful trader. He sends a daily report card to Dr. Steenberger every day. You know, here's this world-class active trader, super successful trader. And he is sending a daily report card, a journal, a trading journal to Dr. Steenberger every day. And he, somebody who actually has edge, is presently working on something very specific that Dr. Steenberger is helping him on, which is helping Shark to focus on his stress-free trading. When Shark is focused on trading the setups that don't cause a lot of agita to him, as my Italian grandmother would say, he trades at his best. When he's fighting it and pressing, that's when he trades at his worst. And so the coaching from Dr. Steenberger is focused on getting him to take more of his A+ trades, to do more of his stress-free trading, so he makes more and he gets better from where he's at.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, it's kind of a chicken and egg, because traders that go in and they don't understand, if they're mistaking it for psychological issues and they don't have an edge in the first place, like they don't have what you say is an edge. I mean, an edge is made up of so many different things, isn't it? It's not just a winning strategy. It's the ability to quickly adapt and spot some errors and find a solution, and then kind of change and, you know, get a system that implements a solution. And then there's also the routine and the emergency procedures and the you know, building your playbook in the first place is really what gives you an edge, because it keeps your mind balanced when you go out into the markets. It's when you then start breaking those rules, or kind of emotions get involved, that then you think, you know, that's when you start revenge trading, things like that. And then you can kind of mistake a trading edge for your psychological issues, as you said. But how do you then work on, you know, developing that well-rounded edge, that because it is so many things, you know, what are the things that you can do to work on developing an edge?
Yeah, I'll jump in and then defer to you, Mike. But as I've written about, especially for shorter term traders, active traders, such as the ones at SMB, and that would include my own trading as well, the edge really consists of pattern recognition, the ability to observe, perceive repetitive patterns in markets. And those can be on different time frames, those can be with different variables, but there are patterns that recur in markets. And when you study enough markets and when you observe enough markets, you are really taking reps, as Mike would say. You are learning the recognition of those patterns, and those patterns form the basis for what Mike calls the playbook, where you study that pattern, you study it as a trade, you implement it as a trade, and that becomes a source of edge because that pattern does recur. And then it's the use of the psychology that helps you stay focused so that you're in an optimal pattern recognition state of mind.
Yeah. And how can, I always use the example of, you know, in layman's terms, developing an edge. As you say, patterns occur frequently in the markets because it's, you know, the markets, they do what they do. And those charts that you look at are a graphical representation of all the participants at any one time. And if human psychology is driving the markets, or humans are behind driving the markets and driving order flow, then, you know, you can identify patterns that happen frequently in the market. And I always use the example that if you get up and you buy SPY at 7 a.m. and you sell it at 8 a.m. every single day, that is consistent, but it's not an edge. And over a 12-month period, you're going to have three outcomes. You're going to lose money consistently, win money consistently, or you're going to be at break even. and developing an edge is putting you on the winning side, right? So what are the things that you do to then, hone in on that to develop an edge? What are some of the things that you can do to help you develop that edge? What should you be looking for?
Well, you should be looking at probabilistically at the outcomes of the pattern to see if the distribution of returns following the appearance of the pattern gives you some statistical probability of a directional edge, of a directional tendency. So for example, I'll try to give a simple example from my own trading. Let's imagine that you're looking at a market and the bars on your chart are denominated in volume, not in time. So you're drawing a fresh bar for every 100,000 shares traded or for every 10,000 contracts traded if you're in futures, but you're drawing volume-based bars. And then you look at how much movement is occurring per unit of volume. You get an oversold market, and then suddenly you get a bar higher where there is much more movement than before, all in a positive direction, and where that volume is skewed toward people lifting offers rather than hitting bids. You could look statistically at what happens after that bar.
Yeah.
And the answer is momentum. It tends to continue higher. But you have to study that in order to know that there is that statistical probability. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a quantitative algorithmic trade, but it is something you have studied and seen the outcomes so that you know that there's a probabilistic edge, and that gives you the confidence to put your capital at risk.
Let me offer two examples from our work at SMB. So getting back to your original question is, well, how do you find your edge? What we do at our firm is we put traders through systematic training programs. The first is a foundational course we call SMB DNA. You learn everything you need to know about trading in DNA. You develop a solid foundation. And then you learn setups that have edge, setups that active traders are trading and making money consistently. And so we are gathering all of those setups that work, that we know work because we see the P&Ls of traders. And we break down in variables, step by step, the trades that really work for the type of trading that we do. And we expose our traders to those setups, and then they experiment with those different types of setups. And then they find a niche based on their talents, their personality, their cognitive strengths, and build from there. They try and find something that works. They try and find one or two trades that works.
Yeah.
And from those one or two trades that works, they try and be consistently profitable. And what's interesting, to give an anecdote of one of the teams that has grown immensely this year, is they used to just focus on one particular type of trading. We call it inefficiency trading.
Right.
And they saw themselves as limited to a subset of inefficiency trading and really built out a nice business on that. In fact, these guys, I would prime and pester these guys for multiple years that they could be the next guys who made seven figures in one trading year just in that strategy that they were deploying. But what we started to talk to them about is, could they take the very specific types of inefficiency trading they were doing and find other trading that they weren't yet considering to be trading they could find an edge in, and in fact find that edge? Were they limiting that inefficiency trading too much so that they were limiting their overall trading? And we asked them to start looking at price action trading. And they did. They started looking at price action trading, and they started finding inefficiency price action trading. And they started finding a little bit of edge in that price action trading, and they measured it. They kept stats on it. And each month they would come before us and share the results. And there was a little bit of an uptick. And the next month there was a little bit of an uptick. And now the numbers are quite impressive. The price action trading is quite impressive. But it's deriving from that original edge.
Yeah.
They just expanded the breadth of it. They took their consistency, measured it in a similar type of trading, and grew from there.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I know we've spoke about an edge from a strategy point of view, and obviously there are setups that you can learn and you can kind of get your head around and you can really master. But as you just said, each trader has different skills, different kind of unique sets of skills and talents and different personalities. So for me, an edge is also having the ability to trade a strategy as well. And a lot of that comes down to your psychology, your skill set, your personality, you know, what you can handle and what you can't, which is, I guess, why you guys have teams. And I've met some of your team leaders, Mike. But what, you know, how do you then decipher who can trade what? You know, what's the next step? How do you put the right strategies with the right people? You know, how does a trader know that if a strategy is right for them or if they could trade it or not?
Well, I listen to Dr. Steenberger. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll be very quick. How does a person, let's say you have a young athlete, how do they know what sport they're going to be good at? Right? They have to play all the different sports and try them out, and they'll see where their skill sets lie and what interests them, and they can gravitate toward where they're skilled and where they're interested. And that's what happens in a trading program. They try different styles of trading, and they actually see what works for them. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I was going to say that I listened to what you have said a lot about this, which is when you're trying different trades and you're experimenting. First of all, I think you really need to do that. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people just learn. They just go to
off the shelf.
Or they go to like one educator who teaches one particular type of trading, one style of trading, and they try it and they fail, and they either assume that the trading educator is a phony, or they stink and they can't make it as a trader, when the reality is, as Dr. Steenberger is saying, they've tried one sport. You know, when we grew up, I played 3 sports, and I have kids now. And my daughter, for instance, I assumed she was going to become a really good basketball player, and we put her in all these different sports. I never thought she'd be any good at soccer, but you let her go out there on the soccer field and you can just see she has talent there, which is surprising. And so as a trader, and as something as Dr. Steenberger said, when you try these different types of setups, you're going to feel that some of them are easy for you. You're going to see that you have success with certain types of setups, the numbers, as long as you're measuring those results. And when it feels good to you, when it makes sense to you, and you're seeing some good results, boy, you want to hang on to that. Boy, you want to hang on to that. Boy, that's a big deal. Don't gloss over that. And start to see if you can build from that.
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time. I think, you know, you can't just pick something off the shelf and expect to sail off into the sunset with it producing profits forever and forever onwards. The very thing that an edge is built on is continuous refinement, right? So I completely agree with you. It's about learning a handful of strategies, or and then studying those and see what resonates and see what you can really naturally kind of pick up and build on. But you always have to build on it. It's a never-ending it's a never-ending pursuit, right?
Yeah, look, the way we do it is we expose guys to lots of different setups with edge. We ask them to focus on the best ones for them, to be selective, to become consistently profitable by focusing on those selective setups that they can win with. And then after that, to work on broadening, to gain breadth with their trading.
Okay, so that's some great points already. So how do you kind of encourage your traders on yourself and Dr. Brett Steenberger? How do you encourage the traders to then develop in themselves or develop in their trading at that point, once they're kind of developing their own edge and going out and kind of refining or broadening or creating breadth, as you say?
Well, I think, Mike, that's where the report cards and the reviews come in, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, traders are periodically reviewing their trading, looking at what they did well, looking at what they could have done better, and learning from each day, each week of experience, so that they're not only trading with some edge, but they're refining that edge, they're refining their ability to execute on that edge.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that Dr. Steenberger encouraged traders to do is to understand what they trade best. So build a playbook and understand why they trade best. I got a daily report card this morning from an overseas trader who had an uncharacteristically poor day. Great trader, 7-figure trader in a market that doesn't have that much opportunity. Really terrific trader. Had a bad day. And I read his report card and shot him over some feedback. And in part of the feedback, I said to him, why do you think you had a bad day? Why don't you try and figure out, were there some things that went into you underperforming? Can you understand what leads to your underperformance? And if you can, then the next time you see some of those things popping up, you can kick yourself off the desk. You can kick off underperforming trader, unacceptable trader, poor trader off the desk. Nobody wants him on the desk.
Right. So if you're developing if you've got a problem, like a proper psychological problem, how can you then, what are some of the things the listeners can do, for instance, the retail traders do in order to develop their own trading psychology, almost as a separate playbook, right? Their trading psychology playbook, as you call it, Dr. Brett Steenberger.
Yes, if a developing trader is experiencing emotional difficulties, the important question is, are those difficulties from their personal lives that are impacting their trading, or are those emotional upheavals the result of what's going on in their trading? And so if you see a set of problems, let's say problems with anxiety and having trouble making decisions, or let's say perfectionism, let's say self-esteem issues, if those have been present even before you started trading, then this is a broader personality issue, and you need to work on it through counseling as a bigger issue, not as a trading issue. Many times people will experience problems in trading and they'll want to work on their quote unquote trading psychology, when in fact they're bringing their baggage, they're bringing their emotional problems from before their trading career into their trading. And that's what they need to work on. And that's what seeing a counselor or a psychologist is all about. There are other times where the specific performance challenges of trading are setting off some problems and creating emotional distress, which affects subsequent decision making. And so in that situation, that's where we work on the trading psychology by using techniques that help people become better observers of their emotions and not so caught up in their emotions. And there are a number of what are called mindfulness techniques that are quite helpful for that. And that's the kind of thing that I might work on with a developing trader.
Okay, so at the worst end of that, then, when do you recommend that someone stops trading? I mean, at what point do you just go, right, this needs to stop? What are the fundamental key indicators where you go, actually, this is broken, something's not right here, from a psychological point of view?
Yeah, and Mike, you jump in if you disagree. I think the challenge or the problem is not so much when the person should stop trading, it's that many people shouldn't have started trading in the first place. In other words, they haven't learned markets, they haven't traded in simulation mode, in practice mode, and developed their edge in simulation before putting their capital at risk. And so they're trying to trade when they're not ready to trade. That's very common in the retail world.
Yes.
So, if someone wanted to be a successful basketball player, are they really going to start out by being on a team and playing in tournaments? I don't think so. I think they're going to start out on the playgrounds practicing their game. So we always need to build our confidence through experience, and many times the psychological issues are the result of not going through that proper learning and skill development process.
The one thing that I find funny about trading, so when I grew up, I wanted to pitch for the New York Yankees. In fact, I still want to pitch for the New York Yankees. And I got to the point where one day I recognized I wasn't good enough to pitch for the New York Yankees. And if I go to Yankee Stadium during a game and I run onto the field, they're not going to let me pitch. They're going to escort me off the field and throw me in jail. In trading, people can turn on their computer and compete with professionals. They can walk onto the field and pitch for the New York Yankees in trading. But that doesn't mean that they should. And the people that are doing this for a living at my firm, we wouldn't let anybody walk into our firm and tell us, I want to trade for, I've always dreamed of trading for S&B Capital. We get this a lot. I've dreamed of trading for S&B Capital a lot. I followed you guys for a long time. It's been my goal to trade for you guys. Will you just let me start trading? We don't just turn people on and give them buying power after they say that or want that. They train. They go through S&B DNA. They have to get hired first.
Yeah.
And they have to train through all the training, and then they start very small. And they're coached and watched, and they review every day before they can do it. And I would just say one more thing, going back to ideas for retail traders, which is I like the idea of every retail trader coming up with a daily routine that's going to help them get better. And so in the psychology realm, if you want to come to markets as the best you, well, you do that by doing the things that's going to lead to you being the best you. That means committing to doing mindfulness training every day. That means committing to being properly hydrated as you should. That means committing to exercising regularly. That means committing to getting the right sleep every night. That means committing to visualization exercises that are going to help you find your best trades. That means committing to being open-minded as you're trading in real time. And so I would think about committing to doing those things that are going to bring you to marketplace in the optimal psychological and mental state, which is focused and open-minded and calm.
Yeah.
And one quick add to that, Mike, something I've mentioned to the traders: you will never be more disciplined in your trading than you are in your personal life.
Exactly.
And so what is the discipline? What is the organization? What is the preparation during non-market hours? The way you can tell a promising trader is by what they're doing when the markets aren't open.
Yeah.
And it's that preparation. And it's like what you're saying, Mike, how people eat and sleep and how they treat themselves. They are in training just like an Olympic athlete. And so it's not just during game time, it's all the time that they're in training.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great
And I'll
quote.
give you, let me give you an example of that. Like, let me give you an example of the things that you should be thinking about. I'm reading a book called A Miracle Morning that Dr. Steenberger and I just discussed the other day.
Great book.
And it goes through, hey, how do you become the type of person who can then become successful? Success becomes when you prepare yourself to be successful. And there's a series of things you can do right in the morning, right when you wake up, to prime yourself to be successful. And Dr. Steenberger has written extensively on his morning routine that has led him to be one of the great trading coaches in the world. And reading that book, certainly I'm familiar with a lot of the things that the author was talking about, but he had some good ideas. And one idea that represents the type of things you should be thinking about is, and one of the things I don't do, which I think is probably something I should do, is he recommends the first thing you do when you wake up is you drink a big glass of water so you're properly hydrated. You know, those are being open-minded to seeking the things that you should be doing, the daily routine that you should be following, and tweaking that and getting that right. Those are some of the things that I see with some of the really elite traders that we get a chance to work on. They're really working on themselves, even on the little things like that, so that they come to markets in their optimal, as their optimal self.
Yeah. It's very common to people who think that they don't, then, you know, to say that I'm not disciplined, but everyone's disciplined in something, and it's finding that and kind of linking what you're trying to do to that discipline. And there's a great quote that says, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think that's a really great quote, because if you can start getting into the habit of actually finishing things, seeing things through, being disciplined, as you say, hydrate, keep your body in shape, that will play out into all areas of your life, including your trading. So one last thing that I want to go through then. Let's just say that there's traders that are, you know, they're performing well and they kind of feel a little bit out there as a retail trader, on a bit alone, a bit out there on their own, and they start to kind of see a deterioration, and they become a little bit stressed. Okay, I know your traders, you know, they're making enormous progress by working intensively to reduce their trading stress. How can retail traders do that? You know, what are some of the things that you would advise traders do?
Can I, by the way, just share a quick anecdote, which I think you guys will find funny, about small wins? Terrific point you make, Jason. Small wins, get used to winning. Small win, small win, small win. They all add up. One of the traders that I work with, in his monthly review, literally recaps how he's doing with his weightlifting goals. He literally puts in there his increases in his squat and his bench.
Awesome.
And the heavy lifts that he does. He's trying to win even in the weight room.
When we deal with risk and reward, there's always going to be stress. Stress is really a set of demands upon us. Yeah. What we want to eliminate is what psychologists call distress. We don't want anxiety. We don't want depression. You know, we don't want emotional reactions to disrupt our decision making. But there's always going to be demand on us. There's always going to be pressure. There's always going to be risk as well as reward, and that causes the stress. And what we do best, what psychology tells us, the research tells us, we can do best to prevent stress from becoming distress is to balance it with well-being, to balance it with positive emotional experiences. So in our times when we're not trading, how are we keeping ourselves energized? How are we keeping ourselves happy and fulfilled? Really focusing on the quality of our lives outside of trading so that we are giving ourselves energy and we're keeping ourselves in peak condition. And that way, when we have all that well-being, when we have all that psychological wellness, the stress is going to be balanced. It's not going to become distress. Yeah. So working on our trading psychology playbook for our personal lives is just as important.
Absolutely. 100% agree. So what First of all, thanks again for coming on, guys. I just want to let the listeners of the podcast know where they can find you guys, and you can kind of promote any books or websites or anything like that. Mike, do you want to go first?
A great resource that S&B Capital puts out is the videos we share on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and type in S&B Capital, you can see free videos where we're sharing the work that we're doing on the desk.
Awesome. And Mike's obviously got 2 books out there, One Good Trade and The Playbook, which I highly recommend. And Dr. Brett Steenberger?
Yeah, so I have a blog that I've written since 2006 called Trader Feed, TraderFeed. The whole address is traderfeed.blogspot.com. And you'll see on the home page links to articles and links to my books and links to a recent blog book, a free blog book that I wrote about spirituality and trading and
Amazing.
ways in which we can ensure that our egos don't get in the way of our trading decisions. So it's a different kind of take on trading psychology that I think some people might be interested in.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to check
Jason,
that
if
out.
I could tell a quick story about you. And
Sure.
one thing I'm very grateful for an effort you made recently. So I work with Traders for a Cause, which is having a 2-day event online with great presenters like Dr. Steenberger and some of the traders from S&B Capital sharing, hey, what's working for them, how you become a successful trader. And perhaps in this podcast, we can figure out a way to shoot a link in there for guys to check that out. And so when I recently started working with Traders for a Cause, they asked me for some terrific presenters and participants and people that could help us spread the word about the work that the charity is doing. And one of the people that I recommended was you and the community that you've started, the terrific community that you started. And it's incredible the growth that you guys have experienced of late, and not surprising in any way, by the way. And so, and we were late I came on a little bit late for one particular live event. And so my requests gotten a little bit late, but we said, hey, let's reach out to Jason. And it was like a couple of weeks before the event, and the event was in Las Vegas, and you're in the London area. And so Jason immediately agrees to come and participate in the charity event, the live charity event in Las Vegas, flies all the way across the continent and through the US, and shows up and participates and really appreciated that effort. And so when we talk about what are the types of things that people who are successful do, those are the things that successful people do. They make the time to give back. They make the effort, no matter how hard, to put their priorities first, giving back and sharing with the trading community. So thank you for that. And Dr. Steenberger and I am sure we'll be happy to come back and talk to you again in a podcast and maybe take some questions from your guys in your community about some of the issues they're having and come up with some tangible solutions for them.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
That's great, Mike. And just to chime in very quickly, I've never seen an extraordinary performer who doesn't display extraordinary efforts. And that's what you're talking about with Jason. The ability to dig down deep and make those extraordinary efforts. Just excellent.
Amazing. I'm absolutely flattered. So thank you very much for coming on, guys. And for the listeners, we are going to be taking part in the Traders for a Cause event on the 16th and 17th of October. And you can see the link in the description of this podcast where you can go and register for that and hear more from myself and the guys. So thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, guys. Thanks very much. I won't keep you any longer. I'll post you or tag you on the link when it's out.
Hey, will you share, if Jason, if you share that with us, if you share the raw file with us, we will promote it on our S&B Capital YouTube channel as well, and get yourself and your community in front of our guys as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Mike. Okay, lovely. Excellent.
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Have a great rest of your day, guys. Take care.
Take care.
All right, so hopefully you got a lot from that interview, guys. Thanks for listening. It's a longer than usual episode, as these kind of features normally are. But really, just to summarize, we're talking about getting into trading. It's not about picking a system off the shelf or finding out what's working for someone else and then chasing that. And then as they go through a drawdown, you chase something else. It's about getting and learning the fundamentals, okay? Learning the basics of trading, then a handful of strategies, and you pick one that resonates with your personality, okay? And if you're a retail trader, you've got the added element and component of your lifestyle, because you're going to want to be making it work around your lifestyle. So with prop firm traders, they show up at a desk every day. They're there. It's kind of a 9 till 5 or 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. kind of deal. They don't really have to focus on the lifestyle side of things. Retail traders have the added complexity of lifestyle, but it's about developing a psychology to help you stay focused then, which helps you maintain consistency. So being exposed to patterns that happen frequently in the market, strategies that have an edge, then developing that edge using your talents, your personality, and your cognitive profile, and then experimenting, demo trading until you can prove to yourself that you're consistently profitable, and then going live. So I know I've been banging on about this for many years. Now you've heard it from the horse's mouth. It probably sounds very similar if you're in my trading community or in tier one. It probably sounds very, very familiar, but it's also comforting to hear that this caliber of operation, this caliber of trader, and Dr. Brett Steenberger are saying the same thing. So that's it for this week, guys. If you enjoyed this, share it around. Next week we're going to be lowering, we're going to be relaxing a little bit, and I'm going to be talking about another topic of wealth building aside from trading. But we'll be back onto trading again. If you've enjoyed it, give it a like, give it a review on iTunes, share it around. If you think anyone needs to hear this, or they're telling you that trading's about Lambos and Rolexes and cash on the bed and all the kind of Instagram traders, just share this with them. I mean, there's nothing they can say to argue with it. It will shut them down, bring them down to reality, which leads me to my last post, my last kind of finishing words. I saw a quote this week that said, "Nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems." And when you think about that, it will really, and you really kind of understand what that means. It'll allow you to approach any situation in life with a balanced and level head. Because normally in trading, whenever you think a market's doing well, or you think a winning trade is great, okay, there's normally some downsides or some complexities that you're blind to in that moment. Just the same as when the market's crashing and going down and you think, you're only seeing the downside, you're normally blind to some upsides to that and some benefits to that happening. And being able to understand that nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems will help you look at things a different way and keep a level head, keep a balanced mind, think longer term. And if you're looking to get into trading, that's the kind of mindset you need. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. Next week, I will see you back here, sharp. Be there, be square. And until then, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you then.
For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.